The Jedi justify their galactic dominance in the name of peace. But that peace is a lie.
How's it going, guys? Welcome back to my channel and time for another round of Luke's TV reviews. On today's video, we're going to take a look at one of the most hotly discussed shows in all of Star Wars history that takes place long before the events of the Phantom Menace and transports us into the era of the High Republic in The Acolyte. Spoilers, by the way, I'm going to be discussing The Acolyte in full detail, so be warned if you are not yet up to date. Peace reigns across the galaxy, thanks to the work of Jedi enforcers. But when a Jedi Master is found murdered, a mystery soon begins to take shape, calling into question past mistakes by Jedi and the emergence of something considerably darker than they have ever encountered before. The hype around The Acolyte, going into before the show had started, was so incredibly tantalizing. I remember sitting in the audience for Star Wars Celebration UK, and the cast and crew came out on stage, and Lesley Headland herself said that this was going to be something totally different that we have never seen in the Star Wars universe before. Not only was it going to skew slightly to a more mature audience, but it was going to focus on the rise of the Sith and take place in an era that, in terms of live action features or shows, Star Wars has never explored before, that being the era of the High Republic. An era where Jedi were the peacekeepers' police, if you will, ensuring that peace and balance flourished throughout the galaxy. And I want to give the show credit first for bringing this era to life in ways that I just hadn't expected that they would be able to pull off. I'm somewhat familiar with elements of the High Republic, some comic runs, novel tie-ins, but being able to actually see this era envelop Star Wars completely, from the costumes to the decor, there is always so much detail to be taken from, especially all that time that we spend on Coruscant, and also being able to see the Jedi as the dominant force in the galaxy, because let's face it, whenever we do see the Jedi, or at least normally, they're on the back foot. But before we go any further in this review, I feel like I have to address the elephant in the room, which is the fan backlash that this show has received. If I don't address this, it will look like I've got blinders on, so allow me to share my thoughts. To say that this show has garnered a hostile reception is a colossal understatement. There are a lot of fans out there that have valid criticisms, and I say this as someone who is about to give a largely positive review of this show. I understand and I see those criticisms. I agree with a few of them as well. This show is not flawless. There are fundamental issues that do affect my overall enjoyment of the show, but as a whole, I'm a fan. What I think is wrong, though, is the review bombing and hate spamming that people are inflicting upon this show. I'm not going to call them fans, because that's not how fans behave. Whether you're a diehard fan or you're not, if you're not enjoying a show, no one's making you watch it. Just stop. Secondly, and this is to do with a criticism that I have seen within the show that I just feel like I have to address, and that is the concept that the show positions the Jedi as being evil, and the Jedi aren't evil, they're keepers of the peace, they're good. I don't feel like at any point this show positions the Jedi to be evil. They're flawed, but they're not evil. It feels redundant to say, but I can't believe that some people out there aren't familiar with the importance of character dynamics. Take Soul, for instance. It's a fantastic performance by Jung-jae, who, just so you're aware, learned English for this role. But he took Soul in so many unique directions. Soul was a character who believed that everything he did was for the good of the Force, which is why he was so steadfast in his belief of wanting to recruit Osha. But it was this determination and inability to stop himself from intervening that resulted in the first domino being toppled of what would become a devastating conspiracy. The Jedi have always been a force for good, yes, but when power such as that goes unchecked, they allow fundamental flaws into the balance of the Force. In this era, the Jedi deem themselves untouchable, so when they discover something that appears to threaten that control, they become irrational, resulting in Sol jumping to conclusions and murdering May and Osha's mother. I thought that David Harewood's character, who appears in the finale, sums it up brilliantly. That just because the Jedi want peace, what sort of lengths would they go to ensure it? Should the Jedi, in some way, be regulated? Case in point, Master Venestra, who sullies Sol's innocent name in order to bury this conspiracy for what it may uncover. The finale also does seem to suggest that she may have been the stranger's former master, and from the look of his back, it suggests that she wasn't the kindest master around. Star Wars has always suggested that the Jedi's belief system was flawed. From Ahsoka's realization and her departure of the Jedi Order, to their ultimate downfall and rise of the Empire. That's what led to Luke turning his back in The Last Jedi. I think the entire notion of tackling and dismantling the Jedi Order is fascinating to explore. Plus, as I've just proven, it's always been a constant thread in Star Wars, so why is it that when we get a show that primarily explores that morally grey area, that some people turn against it? Anyway, that's my rant over. Let's get back talking about the show itself. Manny Jacinto as the Stranger was fantastic casting, mostly because he plays against type. So when we meet him as Khmer, he's the aloof, dopey kind of sidekick, not too dissimilar to Jacinto in The Good Place. And whilst his reveal wasn't exactly shocking, his overall presence was something that I haven't seen from Jacinto before. He was awesome. And it also helps that he's a freaking badass. One thing that I do distinctly remember Headland promising on that Star Wars Celebration stage was that the fight choreography in her show, she set out to rival that of the prequels. And I think she gave them a damn good run for their money. Deliberately waiting to pull the trigger until episode 5, the Acolyte may have divided many, but almost all agree that the fight scenes in this show are flabbergastingly good. The way the Stranger just absolutely tore through all of the Jedi, not to mention that with his impaired vision, he was using only the Force as a guide for his attacks. It was exactly what I was hoping this show would offer. A terrific blend of martial arts and saber clashes that blew me away. The stunt crew deserve standing ovations for putting these fights together, and I want to give a shout out to Dafne Keen as Jackie. I was totally blindsided by her and Yord's death, but it served as a distinct message that anything could happen to anyone in this show. But despite being very fond of this show, as I said, I'm also aware that there are faults to it. One being quite consequential, and that revolves around the twins, Osha and May. They are the crux of this show. Two young girls being raised by a mysterious group of witches, and we later find out that the pair of them are essentially the same being birthed from the Force itself. The larger mystery we have is May being on the dark side and Osha helping the Jedi, or at least that's how the show starts out, and it kind of builds to their inevitable clash. Now, Osha and May, in my opinion, were the least interesting aspect of the show. Amandla Stenberg struggled with both roles. Osha lacked charisma to be the lead, and May wasn't menacing enough to be considered a formidable antagonist. Whenever the show shifted focus onto the two of them, that is when the pacing really began to suffer. That being said, if the finale is any indication for how their stories are going to progress, I am much more interested. Osha siding with the Stranger and bleeding a frickin' Kyber crystal was so cool, and May looks like she's now being used as a possible pawn by Venestra to seek out Osha. Speaking of Venestra, and this is such a minor quibble, but it is one that really began to chip away at me over the course of a couple of episodes. It's to do with what I presume is her current Padawan. I'm really sorry, but I cannot buy that they could successfully pass any challenges that get thrown a Padawan's way. It's not the physicality, but their presence lacked any grandeur that a Jedi would typically have. I just think it's poor casting, personally. So as the finale drew to a close, I know that there were some people out there that were willing to throw their TVs out of the window, whereas I was just left yearning for more. I really want a second season of this. I want to explore the Stranger and Osha's relationship. I want to know what levels of conspiracy Venestra is willing to go to, and how she's going to drag Master Yoda into this. Oh, and yeah, I mean, is that Darth Plagueis? What's he doing on the same planet as the Stranger and Osha? I need answers. For many, many years, I have been after an adventure in a galaxy far, far away that feels distinctly different to anything we've seen before. And whilst the Acolyte may have a number of fun Easter eggs, Lesley Headland has put together a show that features visually dazzling fights, but profound thought about flipping an establishment and providing a new perspective on it all. Moving into a second season, the writing can afford to be a little tighter and ensure that Osha and May are kept interesting. But I also want the showrunners to stick by their guns. Exploring the hubris of the Jedi is great storytelling, and showcases Star Wars as a property not afraid to take risks. I'm going to give The Acolyte an 8 out of 10. Anyway, guys, those were my thoughts on The Acolyte. Let me know, have you seen all of the show yet? What did you think? I know that opinions may vary, but let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And my question to you, I've discussed that The Acolyte has some top tier level lightsaber fight, but what would you say is your favourite lightsaber fight across all of Star Wars? I know the easy options are the Duel of the Fates in The Phantom Menace, Anakin vs. Obi-Wan in Revenge of the Sith. Look, I have no arguments against those. They are perfect lightsaber fights. But one that I want to make sure gets a lot of credit is Ahsoka Tano versus Darth Maul in the final few episodes of the Clone Wars. It's so well animated, so well choreographed. It's a fantastic lightsaber fight. But that's all the time we have for today, so thank you very much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and may the Force be with you. Hello, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have, make sure to click that like button, and if you aren't already, click that subscribe button too.